Hello and welcome to the Creabea Knitting Podcast. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm a knitter and knitwear designer based in Edinburgh, and this is a vlog or a podcast all about knitting, what I'm currently knitting on, what I've been knitting on, and what I'd like to cast on in the not too distant future. It's been 4 weeks. Not on purpose, we've had a very busy few weeks. We were very lucky to have my mother-in-law staying with us, and it completely threw off my schedule in a fun way. Like, I'm glad that I had no schedule, but I'm now trying to wrestle back control of my routine. That's the word I'm looking for. And so I have lots of knitting to share, and I have a bunch of finished objects, and I've got new cast-ons and lots of ideas and test knit calls and pattern releases, and everything that I could possibly fit into this episode is coming. So I hope you're prepared. Hope I'm prepared. Let's see. Yeah, there's just a massive stack of this huge stack of finished objects, which is quite exciting. I'm looking forward to talking about them all. Let's start with talking about what I'm wearing, because today is the release date of the Affric sweater, which is what I'm currently wearing. It is a top-down raglan sweater with colourwork. I feel like, is it a colourwork sweater or is it a sweater with colourwork? I feel like if it was a yoke, I'd call it a colourwork sweater. So just because they're so far apart, it feels like a sprinkle of colourwork as opposed to everywhere. But yeah, it has these two alternating motifs, and it's a raglan, and it's worsted weight. I don't know what else to say about it. And it's currently live. You can use the code Affric10 for 10% off on my website or on Ravelry, or if you're subscribed to the email, my newsletter, there is a bigger discount. There's always a bigger discount in the email, just a heads up. Check your emails for the bigger discount. What else can I say about this pattern? It's named after Glen Affric, which is a beautiful glen on the west coast of Scotland, which takes the most, it's got a lot of oakwood and Scots pine, and so when autumn comes it turns into this sheet of gold, which I thought was very cool, because when I knit this sweater, which was way back in March of this year, I just thought it was the most autumnal thing ever. I cast this on in a train, but then I'm thinking, where was I on the train from or to? Was that back in, it can't have been as far away as December. I don't think so. Anyway, I adore this, and I'm so happy that it's getting cold enough to wear it again. This is a warm sweater, at least mine especially, because it's got mohair in it. So let's talk about the yarn. This sample is knit in Gepard, Pura Lana and mohair. It's a pretty pricey combination just because it's two strands held together, so I will say that it is glorious. And I've cast on something else in this yarn combination because I love it so much. It's a 17 stitch gauge. It works so nicely at that gauge. It's got beautiful drape, and it's also incredibly cozy. However, you are maybe aware that if I'm doing more than one sample, I like to make sure the second sample is in a more affordable yarn. And so for my first brand new finished object of the day, it is my Affric number 2. Oh, I love it so much. It is, oh, it's what have I heard the most? I got people saying it's festive without being Christmassy, which I agree with. I think the orange, it's orange in there, but it's a bit red and greens. I got olive, which I'm also not mad about. We're big Perello olive fans in this house, and I feel like I took inspiration from the can. So this is knit in Rauma Finull, held double. So it's made for quite a dense not dense, firm fabric. I find especially around the neckline and the collar, it's all still quite, maybe it's because this one is mohair, it all feels a lot more drapey and open. By comparison, I feel like this one is worn in a little bit more. I feel like I need to be wearing this all winter, and then it's going to soften up by the spring. It's already softer, and only caught the blocking mats 10 days ago, but I do just find that the collar sort of stands up, which I don't mind. I'll put some pictures, because we took some beautiful pictures last weekend of what it looks like on, and it feels like an outside sweater at the moment until I soften it up to wear all the time. So that is the Affric in, yeah, Gepard, Pura Lana and mohair, and Rauma Finull held double. Other testers also used Rauma Finull held single, which is it's a very lofty, airy fabric. So if you wanted to keep the budget option of Rauma, but you didn't want such a dense fabric as the Finull, you could use Finull. Testers used Cascade, I can't think what else they use, but like anything around that 100 gram, 200 meter mark works quite well, I think. And yeah, or like a DK mohair or a fingering, or like maybe a sport hat double would work. I love it. I'm so pleased it's finally out in the world. I feel like this, I really had to wait for its time to shine because I finished up last season and now it's live. So yes, you can get it on those sites. Ravelry on my website. And this is my first finished object. I feel like I should put this one on, but I decided this one was probably better for filming. We're going out for some lunch today, I think, is the plan. Not very far, we're just going to our local bookshop that has a little cafe, and I think I'll put my white one on for that. I am a big fan of Eucalyptus Jasmine, and I love when a woolly wool holds the scent, and this one definitely has. So that is Affric. That is my first finished object. Now let me just run through all my other finished objects, because I have 2 more sweaters and 2 accessories. That is 5 finished objects in 4 weeks, which is ridiculous. Let's start here. So we went, when my mother-in-law was here, we went to Aviemore, which is like a town about 3 hours north of Edinburgh, 3.5 hours on a very good road, and it's kind of like the outdoorsy capital of Scotland, I would say. It's quite touristy. They have a lot of, I don't know, they have like lots of cycling paths and lots of hiking and like water sports and like everything you could want to do, and it was really lovely. I've not been since I was a kid and I really liked it. We will definitely be going back because I feel like we only scratched the surface of what walks there were. But if you've been around for a while, you will know that if we go away on holiday, the way that I like to make it feel like a holiday is to take a brand new cast on. Which is funny because we keep going away on like 2-day breaks once a month. I've done that all summer. So every time I cast on a new project. So it's not very sustainable, but I do like it. I think it adds, I don't know, I think it's fun. I think it adds to the enjoyment of the holiday to have something to work on. And so I took a really chunky yarn. I had this yarn in stash, and I'm not particularly worried about my stash, but I am just trying to be a bit more reflective and use what I have where I have it, instead of my first option right now is often just to buy new yarn, which there's nothing that wrong with, but also then I'm not going to, whenever I go through my stash, I just like, oh, there's so much yarn I want to have, I want to use, and I've not found the right project for it. So I'm trying just to use the yarn I have instead of ordering new yarn for everything, she says, having ordered lots of yarn this week. So I had this yarn in stash. It is Sandnes Garn, pure Gynt, and mohair. And this is a chunky sweater. It's a 15 stitch gauge, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I cast on at the bottom and I worked this like real deep, I mean it's not that deep ribbing, it's like 10 centimeters of ribbing, and then I just worked the body. And then I split for sleeves, and then there is some shaping at the back neck. It's not particularly visible in the dark because it's such a dark colour, and they're just plain in the round sleeves. This is not really a pattern. If anything, I kind of followed the Corin because it's kind of the same gauge. I mean, it is the same gauge, but that's kind of funny because the Corin's like a lacy cardigan and this is obviously not that, but it was a good way to like estimate my numbers. The cool thing about this is, it's going to be so hard to show, well, maybe not so much. I did a very cool bind off at the shoulders, which I am trialling. I am trialling for a pattern that's part of a project that I can't talk about yet. But if you know what I'm, yeah, I feel that's pretty obvious to anyone who knows what they're talking, yeah. Anyway, so this is a detail in a pattern that I've actually not even cast on yet, but I've swatched for it, I've drawn up and I've submitted. And so it's got a cool shoulder bind off. It is an I-cord 3 needle bind off. Spilling all my secrets right here, but that's what that is, and it's really fun to do. And I guess I'd done it in my swatch and I'd like conceptualized it, but I wasn't really sure how it would work on the whole pattern. So I thought, well, let me just try it and see, and I really like how it turned out. So it runs really interestingly from the collar. You can see that the front and the back increases are there, and then it runs all the way down, 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 and it runs very smoothly into the sleeve. It looks like there's a bulge at the top there, but it's just the way my sweater was folded. It does in fact lie very flat when worn. So yeah, that was really fun. It's so cozy, this sweater. I feel like this is going to be probably the sweater I live in our house when it is cold and we're not done heating on yet, which is probably going to be our whole winter. I don't know why. So in the UK, heating is very expensive. Or like heating has gotten much more expensive over the past few years. I don't think it's all that expensive, but the costs, there's usually a cap. the cap keeps rising, electricity and energy bills keep going up, and so heating your house is very expensive. And so we can afford it, but for some reason we're both just a bit like, well, we'll put on all of our layers first and then we'll put heating on. And also Sam doesn't get cold and I get cold all the time, so I feel like my winter is going to be like this, like a long sleeves t-shirt and this and a hat and a hot water bottle, and if I'm still cold then I'll put the heating on. So yeah, it's very simple. It knit up very quickly. I think it took me 10 days. I thought I would do it in a week. I did not manage a week. I managed 10 days, but I'm not too mad about it. And then I got a fun new addition to my wardrobe, which I think I'll wear a good amount. And I also got to like test out a theory for a new project, which was quite nice to be like, oh, this actually worked. I'm glad that I worked this out now instead of at the end of a more important project. So that was quite fun. Next finished object, because I'm just pouring them out. I honestly feel like I should maybe put this one on so that you can see it. Okay, I'll put this one on. You pressured me. Da-da-da! Oh, my collar's not very straight. There we go. So it has been, I wore it last weekend and then I like chucked it in a pile and it is very wrinkly. This is my Lannarch sweater. I'll put a picture here. Oh, last time I put all my pictures in and then I got comments being like, you forgot all the pictures. They're in my copy, so I need to do some troubleshooting this time to work out why the pictures have not gotten their way all the way to the video. But they were there. People were like, oh, you forgot them. I did not forget. I just didn't check the video once I'd uploaded it to make sure they were there. So I will check this time. And hopefully when I say the picture is here, the picture will be here. I have a pattern with the Lannarch. It came out like 2.5 years ago. And it is a drop shoulder all over half fisherman's rib zipper sweater. It is probably the hardest pattern I have, and that like, it's not that challenging, but half fisherman's rib is labour intensive, and then there's like shaping in the half fisherman's rib, and I feel like it is just a bit complex, but I love the finished object so much. And then I have another pattern which I'll come on to talk about, which is going into testing in my test form that went out today, which has a half fisherman's rib and a stockinette option. And part of me was like, well, if I'm doing this pattern with half fisherman's rib and stockinette, I should just add stockinette to the Lannarch. So here is my first sample. Now I will say it's not perfect. There are a few things I need to change. The way that I divided the stitches at the front and the back wasn't quite perfect, so I've got a few too many stitches at the front, if I'm being perfectly honest. But it is a very, in the sewing world, it would be a wearable toile, meaning that it's perfectly functioning. It's not perfect, but like you're happy to wear it, and that is what this is for me. So what I really love about this is that because the half fisherman's, well, there are two reasons for this. I'm going ahead of myself. I use Knitting for Olive merino and mohair in the colours burnt orange, and it is a 20 stitch gauge. Now it's a fairly light, it's a light fingering. It's a 250 meters per 50 grams fingering. And so I think probably you would knit that normally like a 22 stitch gauge, and so it's quite a drapey fabric. Now I think it makes it very wearable, but a combination of that and the fact that it's a 1x1 rib collar instead of a half fisherman's rib collar, like if I want to zip it up, it will stay up and be cozy. But with the Lannarch, if I unzip it, the collar is like this, which again, I like it as cozy. What I was not really expecting is that this collar lies flat, and I kind of love that. So that's really fun. I like it a lot. So yes, this is it. I really like the colour. I mean, whenever I wear orange or like red orange or anything in this colour scheme, I get a load of compliments. So yes. So the plan for this is to write it up, fix my numbers, make a second sample, and I think at my second sample, once I get past the yoke split, I will do a call for testers. I will run a full test knit for this. I'm also considering adding a men's fit and a femme. Well, there's currently just, it's graded to a women's size chart, but like I think I will do the same treatment as I'm doing to my other pattern, which is give it a full men's revamp for both this and the OG Lannarch. And then this will get added to the existing pattern. So if you already own Lannarch, you will get an update for this. If you do not own it, I will announce when this goes to it and you can still purchase the pattern. But yeah, I thought I would add this into the pattern. My second sample is going to be in a dark grey, which I think is going to be lovely, and it is going to be in Tukawool. No, it's not Tukawool. In Hillesvag, because I bought a sweater's quantity a few weeks ago with plans for something else, and it did not work for that thing. It was very hairy. I don't want to say fluffy because it wasn't fluff, it was like hairy. And I think it'll be a very good think it'll be perfect for this. I'm excited to cast that on. So it's nice, it uses a lot less yarn than the half fisherman's rib, because half fisherman's rib just likes to like eat yarn. And this is just going to be, I just love my Lannarch. I feel like whenever I wear any of my Lannarchs, I've got 3, 4, I've got 3. Well, this is my 4th. And I've got another one which is currently being sample knit because I've had it in sitting. I had it down to past the yoke and it was sitting around for so long and I was like, I'm so sick of this. I just want this done and I'm not knitting it myself. And so my wonderful test knitter, Alex, who finished my last Lannarch, I messaged her and I was like, hey, how would you feel about finishing off a half-finished whip? And because she's an incredible person, she said yes. So I will have a 5th Lannarch at some point soon, and then when I knit my second sample of this, I will have 6 Lannarchs. I love that. Yeah, there's something about it so fun and cool, and like you just feel like I don't know, I just feel very accomplished when I wear one of these. Okay, I picked my Affric back on because it's Affric day. Okay, we're back. I've got 2 more finished objects still. Let me talk about the first one because this is my other one of the things also going out in today's newsletter. I obviously speak quickly and I'm aware of that. I think my biggest problem is when I speak so quickly that the words run together. That is what I'm trying to be better at. I used to do a lot of public speaking and it really improved my diction, I guess, and I have not done that properly. I mean, I guess is this public speaking? I don't think so. I feel like I have to speak in public. I am in private right now. But that really improved my speaking. Duh. That really improved my pace and diction, and I feel like that was like 5 years ago, so now I've lost it all. I should have emptied this before I showed it on the podcast, but it was in my bed last night, so it is still, it's cold, but it is still here. This is the Gynt hot water bottle cover. Now, I am aware that in some parts of the world you do not have hot water bottles. What? How do you function? I love this. From the month of September until April, this is pretty much constantly attached to my body. And I was a bit of a hot water bottle cover skeptic because I kind of like when it's like scalding me and it's too hot. And then you get to like the blissful middle section where it's just perfectly temperatured and then it starts to get cold. And what I've discovered is that a hot water bottle cover keeps it at that perfect middle temperature for much longer, and that I had one of these as a kid. It was furry and like zips your hot water bottle into it, and there's probably a good reason for that. So there we go. I wrote this pattern so long ago and then had it tech edited and still hadn't had the sample, so I whipped up the sample in one evening. It took me maybe 4 hours, and if I was going to commit to gift knitting, this would be what I'd commit to, but I'm not doing that because I don't want to stress myself out and no one cares that much. My sister does want a knitted bear. I should knit that at some point. So let me talk about it. Yeah, it's annoyingly heavy because it's got water in it. So it's got if it's a standard size water bottle, you use a double, like a Judy's Magic cast on of sorts down here, and then you knit it up, and then this is all worked in the round, so that was very, very straightforward. And then I did some decreases and I've got some ribbing at the top. I like to keep my ribbing a little below the lip of the hot water bottle because I find that that's the easiest way to fill the water bottle, but if you want to make longer ribbing so it covers it, which is more aesthetically pleasing but in my opinion less practical, you're very welcome to. And as with the Kintra, this holds 24 colours, so perfect for advent scraps. However, I just used 3 colours. I was going to use a green because I had a green, or put the leftover yarn. I had a green, but I was sitting there and realised that these colours match my living room and that would be aesthetic. So it's white, it's just 3 colours. It's the main colour white, which is like a tweedy white, and then a brown, like a caramel colour, and a blue. This is Sollas Cardigan Pure Gynt, which I use for all of my Kintra accessory patterns, and I completely disregarded colour dominance, which I should not have done, and honestly to my visual eye I can tell no difference. Oh no, I've already spilled on this? Or is it just fluff? Oh, it's just fluff, never mind. But I do think in the picture, like if I take a picture you can see the colour dominance, which is a little silly of me because I worked out colour dominance in the Kintra main pattern, but it's only a bottle colour. It's not a big deal. So this is one of my charity patterns of the year. There are 3. There's this, there is a scarf which I put on the door over there and I don't have to hand, and there's a bag, and all 3 of them will use up to 24 colours, and all 3 of them are pretty, like I don't think any of them would take more than, there's a large version of the scarf which I think uses like 500 meters of yarn, so I guess that could take a little bit longer, but all of them did it pretty quickly. They all have the Kindred colour work on them, and the scarf is flat colour work, which is fun and a bit of a new experience for me, and I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. But there we go. So this is fun. I have had it full since the moment it was finished, and this might sound very silly. However, I didn't really understand how you close these up, and I was like, do I have to knit this around the bag? Like, is that how this, do I put the hot water in and then knit it around? No. No. That was one of the things that I was like, I'm not knitting one of those because what a hassle. Like, firstly, you meant to dispose of hot water bottles after, like, there's an expiry date on it. So I was like, well, I don't want to ruin my knitting by having it stuck around it the whole time. And secondly, that sounds like hell, like knitting around this big rubber nonsense. That's not how it works. So once it's empty, you can like, you can fold these edges in and it comes up through here. I was honestly going to say like a menstrual cup, and then I was like, don't know if that's appropriate, but I've said it now anyway, so there we go. You just like fold the edges in. It comes out really easily. And that is what this does. So like, it doesn't stretch out of shape at all. And also you don't need to block it, because once you put it on a hot water bottle and you fill it with hot water, it basically like steam blocks itself. So it's very even colour work despite not being blocked. And yes, you can remove the hot water bottle very easily. You just empty it and then you like fold this in, and then it comes in and out like a tube. Ta-da! So that pattern will come out in November, but if you're interested in testing it, the test call is in my newsletter. There are so many test calls. There will be a pattern that I'll get to when I get to my whips. Just throwing it back on the floor. It's all good. And yeah, there's a pattern when I get to my whips that I'll talk about, which is also in the test knit today. But there are 3 Kintra accessories, and then there's a mega pattern with 4 variants. So I think I'll be looking for, I think I said this, that I mean theoretically the pullover is, the sweater is technically needs 80 testers. I think that's an unreasonable amount for me to manage, so I'll review that, but there are officially 80 slots in the test knit. And then, what? Yeah, I guess like 5, 9. Technically I'm looking for 100 test knitters. We'll see if, yeah, I'll see. We'll see what the applicants look like. Last finished object, which will run me hopefully quite nicely into my next 2 works in progress. So, I've still not woven the ends in, but it's fine. I did a hat. Here's my hat. Oh, I need to put this up because I actually made a mistake in the colour work, and you can see it if I leave the hat brim low enough. So the hat brim, that's like my sign of where the hat brim goes to cover that mistake. It is an Argyle hat. I knit this up in a day because I was very into an idea and I wanted to kind of, not really gauge swatch, but like pattern swatch. And so I made this hat up and I really, really like it. It is also Santa's Pure Gynt, and it's the colour, I don't even know what this colour is called. This might be blood orange, and then this is Tutti Frutti tweed. And I don't know if you can see, but there are little, I should just take this off my head, shouldn't I? You can see it quite obviously here. There are some little flecks, and the flecks are like brightly coloured, which is very cute. And it just has a very straightforward set of decreases at the top. And I'm impressed it fits my head, because I pretty much only knit 2x2 ribbed hats because I have got a really bad track record of knitting hats that are way too small or way too big. So luckily this one will fit. There could just be a point to which my gauge is improved, which I honestly think it has. I think my gauge is way better, and firstly it's more consistent, and secondly I understand my gauge more. So I probably could, I mean I did knit a hat better now than I had knit before. I also love that the weight, because it's kind of square, I knit with these 2 kind of like ears, which honestly like they switch out really easily, but yeah. So I got really into Argyle. I'm in a bit of turmoil. Turmoil? Yeah, that's probably the right word. Distress, maybe, about my next project. And the reason for that is I had a big realisation yesterday that it's not right and I need to start over. Which is fine because I knit the sweater in a week. Like it was hyper focus week, but it was a lot of work. It's probably like 20 hours I've gone into the sweater, and to find out that it's not right is annoying me a lot, but it's okay. Let me talk about it. So, Argyle. And then I kind of had this in my mind. you know, with my raglan. And so I cast on a sweater, and I'll talk about it in a second why it's not right, but let me show it to you first. It's so cute. So I'm using Ficlolana Pernilla and Ficlolana Tilia held together, which is a sport weight and a mohair, and this should give me a 20 stitch gauge. It's off gauge. My swatch was on gauge, my pattern is not. It is stretched out both row gauge and stitch gauge a little bit. The stitch gauge is fine, it's just a bit oversized. The row gauge has made it quite long, which I think again is fine. I think this will be not quite as wearable a toile as my zipper sweater, but I think I'll finish it and I think it'll still be wearable. I think. Right now I'm still, it's kind of in my mental naughty corner. It's right in front of me, but it is mentally in the naughty corner. So it's these really, really fun colours. It's showing up as a brown, but it's really, it's much more reddish and purple to my eyes. And then there's fun green. I got like chocolate pistachio colours. I think it's very on trend and I love it. But the proportions are wrong. Sad. And I think I knew something wasn't quite right, so I did the yoke and I tried the yoke on and I thought this is incredible, I love it, it's beautiful. And I've been trying on since and I'm like, it's not lighting up the same sensors in my brain, so I know something's not quite right. And I nailed that down to like maybe the yoke is too deep, which the yoke is a little too deep, but the yoke is only a few centimetres too deep. And I was like, that's not really the problem. And I filmed a video talking about the sweater and I put it on TikTok and someone was like, that top one looks like it starts too early. And I was like, I don't want to listen to you because it's my sweater and I make the decisions, but then also you're right. The proportions are wrong. And I think ultimately the problem is that I don't think I should have 3 motifs. I think I should have 2 motifs. I think I should start this one lower and then there should be a second one here. It also, I was thinking a lot about sizing and I was thinking about how this one has turned out, again, a bit too long on the yoke. And it's honestly not too long as a sweater. I like a crop sweater, but it in itself is not too long of a sweater. However, it doesn't give me anywhere, there's no room to play with grading. You'll see that the pattern ends and the ribbing starts straight away, which means that if somebody wanted to make their sweater shorter, they'd struggle, and then for smaller sizes, the patterns would be very close, the motifs would be so close together, because I'd have to take out extra space to make the shorter yoke. This is all very technical and just, not even technical, just like brain jumble. But it's too long in the yoke. It is not necessarily too long in the body, but it's verging on the upper limit of what the length of the body would be. And in order to give me flexibility for smaller sizes, I would need to decrease a lot of the gap in between these two, and I think it would be too much. So I also think it does just look a bit busy. Like, it looks fun and it looks cool, but I think it just looks too busy. So I'm starting over. I started over this morning with my morning coffee, which I'm a little bit sad about if I'm honest. Mostly because like, I like colour work, but colour work does not make my heart sing in the way that like plain stockinette or even cables do. Colour work to me feels like a product knit, whereas stockinette in the round is a process knit for me. And so this is quite a lot of colour work, and they're not huge sections, they're like, but I was like, oh, this is so much colour work and I'm gonna have to do all this colour work again. The plus side is that I only have to do 2 motifs and not 3. There are so many other benefits to this as well. Like right now you have to manage, like it's a compound raglan so that it fits better, so like the sleeves and the body have a different increase rate when you get to the bottom of the raglan. I think almost all of my patterns have that now. I think so. And so it's a compound raglan, and what I currently have to do is manage the compound raglan with the stitch pattern. It's probably easier to see on that side because I've already started the sleeve. And so this way the colour work will sit more like here, which also gives me more flexibility. Like it's easier for the knitter to work different increase rates in plain stockinette than in colour work. So it's overall going to be fine. I've gone through like every stage of grief in the last, that's very dramatic of me, but like I got really angry about it and then I was like, no, it's fine. And then I think I'm now, what is it, acceptance? I don't actually know what the stages of grief are. I'm in the point where I'm like, yes, I know that's what I have to do. How privileged am I that I don't know the stages of grief? That's a sign that I've had a very good life. But yes, that is where I'm at with this. I've also decided, so that's for one. I don't have a name for this yet. It's Argyle, and there is an area of Scotland called Argyle. I mean, now it's Argyle and Bute. It's like a council area, like a county, I guess. And I'd like to pick up, I've got a lot of patterns with place names from Argyle and Bute. I'd like to pick something from there. Everything I like already has 5 patterns on Ravelry named after it. And also, little mini Scottish history lesson. There are good Campbells and bad Campbells. Very oversimplified, someone will argue with me. But the bad Campbell sided with the English, Highland clearances, bad Campbells. My mother is a Campbell. My maternal side are Campbells, so I understand, I'm still one of you. They're the good Campbells. But they're the bad Campbells, the good Campbells, and the bad Campbells' seat was in Argyle. They're definitely not all bad, but this is just very oversimplified. And so part of me like, oh, I was like, I could go Campbell, which I think is very cute, but then am I honouring the bad Campbells? I don't know. So, I don't know. I've gone through a bunch. There's an island in that county called Gometra. But then again, even I get the pronunciation wrong, so maybe not there. Scarba is another one on my list. Doesn't quite fit. So I've not quite worked out my pattern name for this yet either. However, this pattern, the original plan was to do a raglan sweater, a drop shouldered sweater, and a cardigan / vest. The raglan is still very much on the table. I'll cast the second one. The vest is on the table. My vest I'm planning to do, the motif will just be on the bottom, and the vest will be a v-neck. I get asked about v-necks all the time and I never have answers. It'll be a v-neck, and because it will be a vest, you could very easily add a short row sleeve, like a set-in sleeve. So I think there will be a cardigan with set-in sleeves and a vest option. So that and the raglan are confirmed. The drop shoulder is a question mark. I like the idea of it. I like the idea more when I was doing 3 motifs, because then I could have like one here and then one across the sleeves. I don't know if it'll look weird having one with not on the sleeve at the top. I have the yarn for it, so probably it will happen, to be honest. So yeah, there's a lot going on in my brain about this. I feel so much better about it today. Yesterday I was a bit stressed about it. I was like, oh, I went for a walk and I was thinking through all my options. And then I think actually I've been taking musical classes. I've been taking fiddle classes, which is the violin, but played in a certain way. Or like, it's a violin, but then the fiddle tunes use different techniques, let's put it that way. So you use the same instrument, you play it slightly differently. That's the fiddle. I've been taking fiddle classes. I'm only on week 4, okay? I can hold the bow. That's about it. And I played that last night, and I honestly think like I drove there. It's the other side of Edinburgh. I can get buses, but it finishes quite late. It finishes at like 9 p.m. and I wouldn't if I took the bus I wouldn't get home until after 10. So I drive there and drive back. And like that little 20 minutes in the car for myself, plus my brain being able to, I think I live, breathe, eat knitting. Like my brain is never not knitting, even when I'm not physically knitting. In fact, if anything, the quietest my brain is when I'm knitting, because then I'm knitting and I'm reading a book, or I'm watching TV, or I'm chatting to people, or I'm at knit night, and that is the time I'm thinking the least about knitting, because my hands are doing the thing. Any time where my hands are not doing the knitting, it's thinking about the knitting. I'm a tortured artist, what can I say? No. But something about the fiddle was really nice last night, because it's hard. It's like, it's moving my hands and thinking about things in ways I don't normally think. And between the drive there, the walk in the morning, and the drive home, I was like, this is what I have to do. And so I went to bed a bit mournful again, sad a little bit, I guess. Like, not real, I wasn't really sad, I was just a bit like resigned, maybe that's the word I'm looking for. I went to bed a bit resigned. I knew what my fate was. I didn't want to have to deal with it, and so now I'm dealing with it. So that's the plan with this pattern. No name, for one. For two, a whole, you know, we're on Sleeve Island, and yet this is not quite right. So we're starting from scratch with a new version, and I do have at least 2 more versions planned. I think that's the other thing, is like I felt like I was like, if you're planning versions, I'm like, well, I'm already 20% of the way there. If I'm going to do 4 samples at 20% of the way there, I'm back to 0%, or like 0.5%. So that was part 1 of the saga. and the first whip. Part 2 then is my newest whip that I've cast on. And so another issue I had with this is my gauge changed a lot. Now I gauge swatched. I think my hands just relaxed into the colour work. Now I don't really mind if my hands generally, like, it's not a huge issue. However, it is a problem for the first sample. Because, like, I don't know, I probably knit a few toasters that are not on gauge. And I honestly don't mind at this point because I've knit so many of them. The pattern's right. I've knit that to gauge. I know how I'm manipulating it. I don't really mind that so much now. But for the samples for the pattern, they need to be on gauge. Because, firstly, to do all the maths, hypothetical doesn't work. You can't just be like, oh well, like, it's meant to be 20 stitches but it's actually 18, so like let's just pretend it's 20. Doesn't work. And 2, people only want to see how it looks on your body, ultimately. In the pictures I need to be able to say that I knit this size exactly the way the pattern's written, and that is how it fits me and what it looks like. So I think I need a bit of a break from that yarn, and I need a bit of a win in terms of the gauge and making sure I'm bang on gauge to calculate things. So I'm using some yarn from Stash. I had to do a top up, but that's okay. I ordered this at the start of the year, I think, for actually the predecessor to this. I started, if anyone remembers, like a check. Actually, it's almost funny that it's going to come back around to be in Argyle, because I feel like Argyle is actually pretty close to what I started. I started almost like a tartan plaid-y pattern where it was, again, bands around of colour work with white and grey, and I just didn't really like it. Wasn't quite for me. I knit a yoke and changed my mind, and I used these yarns. This is Fibre Company Lower, which I used for my Rue sweater, and I love that yarn. It turned out really nicely, and so I thought, well, I've got this in Stash, let's use it. So what am I using? I'm going to switch my main colour up, and I'm using the white as my main colour, which means I have to order a few more skeins. I've got this much and this much. I've ordered 2 more. I'm hoping the colour is going to be similar. If not, I'll just cry in the corner. It's okay. I'm not actually, I have no idea how good these, like, there are some brands that I know are very consistent. It is commercial, so you'd hope that that would mean that there would be a bit more consistency, but we'll see when it arrives. This colour is Serene, and it is honestly just like an off-white. And then this colour is Pensive, I think. Yeah, and it is like a medium grey, I guess. And so, yeah, my original sample was, the original thing I cast on was grey as the main colour and white as the contrast, and I just thought I would switch it up and try the other way around for now. There's a possibility that I only do the yoke of this and then decide that I actually want to use a different yarn, and I've kind of resigned myself to that one. But the reason is that all my maths for the original pattern, and honestly the gauge I want the original pattern to be, or I want the pattern to be, is 28 stitches and 28 rows per 10 centimetres, which might go up to like 26 rows for my colour work, because my colour work always takes more rows. Or actually, yeah, it takes up more space per row. So, and I know that my Rue sweater, which is colour work in this yarn, was that gauge. So I feel like I've already kind of validated that. And at this point, my plan is just to knit the yoke and, well, to knit the sweater, to be honest, and see how I get on. And then get going with other samples, one of which I think will be, I've actually stuck with similar colours. I've gotten the brown, a different brand, but I'm sticking with that burgundy and a pale blue instead of the green. I really struggle to knit the same yarn twice. That would be very wasteful. Like, not the same exact yarn, like I could use that green in something else, but I struggle to knit the exact same sweater in the same colours again. My brain needs some change. And so I've got the burgundy as the main colour again, but with blue. And then I've got a red and a grey for the cardigan. And I guess we'll just see how all that goes. And hopefully next time I'll have a bit more not like positive, I don't feel negative about this. I just feel like I'm in the middle of a bit of a whirlwind about this idea. And when this happens, I feel like physically sick. So ultimately, I'm slouching so badly. That's what happened yesterday is, I feel like what happens is, like, my brain has made the decision, but it's not got on its way to the front yet, so I've not actually decided. And so I know it's in there somewhere, but I'm sort of waiting for it to happen. And then I feel almost physically ill getting that idea out onto the needles, like, and that, like, I feel nauseous, like anxious and nauseous. And that's exactly how I felt. I felt really unsettled yesterday because the decision was in there, I just hadn't made it yet. And then I felt really anxious getting my second sample started. So that's why I've started the second sample straight away. And I guess my plan will be that this weekend, we've finally got a quiet weekend, which I should definitely use to clean my house, catch up on admin, catch up on sleep, I don't know, do some meal prep. I will also definitely be speed knitting a yoke. of this, which is fine. I'm okay with that. So that's where we're at with this one. Next time, let's see if I'll have a name. Maybe I'll have a pattern that fits and is proportionately correct. And hopefully I'll be feeling better about it, because now I'm so into the idea of the Argyle that I'm just very, like, I want it. I want the thing to exist. I feel like I sound a bit unhinged at the moment, but it's okay. Okay, I've got 2 more whips. And then a tiny bit of acquisition. Whip number 1 is, and a bit funny, actually it's also in Fibre Company Lower, which I kind of forgot about. A few weeks ago, it's probably more like a month ago now, I accidentally kind of like mass ordered brown yarn from like 4 different places without realising, and this is one of them, all in this sort of like orangey browny colour. And unfortunately I realised straight away that this is what this is going to become. And as you can see, it's in such a good state and it's very obvious what this is going to become. So, I've got a pattern going to testing today called Insh, I-N-S-H. Lannarch is a place in Scotland, and Insh is just added to a lot of things. It's a very common part of a lot of Scottish naming. And it is a saddle shouldered sweater, and I'm gonna, the sample is right behind me, I'm gonna grab it because I feel like I should. Okay, I'm back. So I got 2 samples which I finished weeks past, so you will have seen them before. This is the Insh Henley. I still, to this day, have not quite worked out what I'm doing with this collar, and I will revise it before the pattern comes out. I think this collar is too high for me, but I've just not fixed it yet. And it has no buttons yet, but otherwise it's done. So this is the Insh Henley. It is a saddle shoulder, but it is like a, I don't want to say a true saddle because that sounds like the other ones are not real. I feel like the trend right now is a saddle shoulder, like a drop saddle, like the Lakes series by Rosetta, which are really popular, and there are quite a few other designers who I feel like have done like a drop shoulder saddle recently. It's stunning. I think it's beautiful. This is not that. It is, as you can see, like it finishes right at the top of the shoulder, and it's got a shaped sleeve cap. So it is more of a traditional saddle shoulder fit. And it's got a bunch of neckline options. So this is the high Henley, so it's like, yeah, you can see it's kind of chunky. Then there's also a low Henley, and there's a round neck, which is like a plain crew neck, and then it's in half fisherman's rib, and it's also in stockinette. So I made this version in stripes. You can actually see the short row shaping and like more clearly in this one. You can see like that is the shaped, that's the end of the saddle, and that is the sleeve cap. It's like a shaped sleeve cap. This was my second sample, just striped, which is so much fun. I deepened the neckline, which is also on the pattern. So like this has got a lower V, which I think is going to be, I've worn it a little bit, I think it's going to be very springtime, if I'm honest. Although I could feel like I'd wear this with like a turtleneck underneath it throughout the winter, and that could get some more wear. Both of these samples I knit in Laxton's Sheep Soft, which is a fairly new to me yarn and which I really love. I just wish they had more colour. They have a lot of like washed out colours, which I don't dislike, but I would like some more vibrancy, and they have some beautifully vibrant colours in their other ranges, but I don't think their other ranges as soft and as nice to work with as this. So, but these are both, this is like the white from them, and this is their navy blue, and then this one I can't remember what it's called, ash brown, ashcroft, ash, I don't know idea, I don't know. So there you go, 2 Henley, well, that's the Insh sweater. The Insh comes in half fisherman's rib and in stockinette. So there are 2 different gauges. There's an 18 stitch gauge for the half fisherman's rib and a 20 stitch gauge for the stockinette. So I use the same yarn for both projects. The half fisherman's rib uses more yarn, but like it's the same, it's not the same gauge because the pattern is so differently, but it's the same yarn base. It's the same weight. There we go. It's the same weight of yarn, but it's a different gauge. That was just the term I was looking for the whole time. Half fisherman's rib and stockinette. Henley or round neckline, and men's fit and women's fit. So there are 2 completely different versions of the pattern, one for men and one for women. And I'm still working on the word for this because I want to make sure it's gender inclusive, so I think it fit 1, fit 2, fem, mask, TBD, but there should be a version for everyone. This then is my stockinette round neck sample. This is about as far as I've gotten. I've done the back and I'm working on the front, and I had hoped to have the front finished. My plan was I'm going to finish the yoke, add the collar, and then I could take a picture and put it in the test net so people were like, oh yeah, that's what the brown collar looks like. It's basically the same as the Henley if you just button up the Henley. Like, that is what the round yoke will look like. It's a very minor change to the pattern, but I felt like I was going to do this, and then I got sidetracked by Argyles, and it's not happened. But there we go. The fun thing about saddle patterns is that you don't just swatch, because you can knit the saddle and block it, and if it's on gauge then you're on gauge. Saddles are like the cheats. I don't know which side I've washed. This one. The cheats gauge swatch is that you knit the saddle and then you just block it, and I think it's gonna be really fun. Orange colour. It looks quite similar to this, but it's actually more reddish. It's more like reddish brown. And there we go. I'm enjoying this. I just got sidetracked. Story of my life. And so it's got, let's see, you cast on for the saddles, you knit 2 of those, and then you pick up along the saddles and you cast on for the back neck and along this saddle, and then there's back row, the shaping of the back, and then at the front you pick up along the saddle and you do some neckline shaping, and then either you join in the round or you continue shaping the fronts for the Henley neckline, and then you join in the round and knit the rest plain. And there's a little bit of then you pick up for the sleeves. There's short row shaping at the top of the sleeve, fitted, quite classic, loads of options. Insh sweater coming January 2026. Isn't that crazy that I'm working on 2026 patterns already? Who am I kidding? My patterns for all of 2026 are already ready. No, that's not true. They're not ready. They are in some form, either in my brain or on the paper. I feel like I'm becoming weirder as this podcast is going on. So that's my Insh Henley. I have decided, my plan was to get, so I've got one being sample knit for my stepdad. It's going to be his birthday, I know it's Christmas gift, but also he will be modelling for me. Here's your gift. Put it on and take some pictures, please. And my plan had been to make his the half fisherman's rib sample, but I think actually, having spoken to him, I think he'll wear the stockinette more. So he's going to get a stockinette round neck, and then I'm going to make a half fisherman's rib version for myself at some point during the test knit, which is fine. I'm not sure in colour, maybe dark grey. I think a dark grey would be so wearable and beautiful, but part of me is like, is a dark grey, is it worth knitting half fisherman's rib in dark grey? Is that torturous? So any colour suggestions on that one? We've currently got, let's see, we've got these two, and then we've got the orange, and I do like them to be cohesive. So we've got these, we've got orange, and then his is the dark green. So any colour suggestions for like these two plus dark green plus number 5? 5 samples, it's ridiculous. So there we go. Inch, sample, nope, testers. Test call's gone out today. Test it starts on Monday. Test it runs until January 1st. 13 weeks, I think. 13 weeks. There are only 13 weeks left this year. Terrifying. Okay, I got one last whip. And it's a new one. It's a fun one. And it's very spontaneous. And I did it earlier this week. I think I cast off, like I finished the body of the Argyle, and I was a little, I think I knew something wasn't quite right, but I blocked it. And then of course my hands were tied because you can't knit wet yarn, so I had other things to work on whilst that was happening, but I didn't really want to work on those other things. I wanted to work on the Argyle, so I cast on a new fun project. I was feeling a bit like, not really under the weather, like I was really ill this week. I was just feeling really like, really run down. Didn't sleep very well, so like this week has been all about like comfort meals and fun cast-ons, and this is my fun cast-on. So, as I mentioned, this sweater is in Gepard Pura Lana and mohair, and this main colour I had loads left over. In fact, I've got leftovers of all the colours. I've got so much left over of the brown that I think I ordered extra yarn to make a whole sweater out of because I love the colour so much. So I've got like a lot of brown. The dark grey, that's right here. It's also inside out because I wore it this week. The dark grey I had left over, which was this, honestly just this tiny little colour in the middle stripe. I made a Tolsta tank out of, which is like a woolly version, and this is again with the mohair, because this combination in 17 stitch gauges is perfect. and I love the fabric of this so much that I thought I would make a little cardigan in the same fabric. So there's a pattern. Oh no, am I across? Yeah, I'm being really, that's really annoying. I should have done that. I was knitting yesterday and I accidentally have two different, like I was switching it to another cable, but I don't know if you ever do this when you're like, okay, I need to, especially back and forward, where you think, okay, I need to put this on a larger cable, and so you join a new cable at one end and then you work across the row, but then by the time you get to the end of the row you've forgotten that you were planning to use a different cable, and so then you knit back along in the same cable, so you end up with two cables joined with a needle on each, and that is what I've done here. So let me get to the end of this row and then I will show you. It is my Sollas pattern. So Sollas is the next summer pattern in the Toast series. So there's Toasta, Toast Attack and Lusk so far. It's the same gauge, 17 stitches. It is a simultaneous set-in sleeve, which is a newish, well, not new to me now, but it was a newish construction to me at the start of the year. I actually learned about it when we went skiing, which was, was Affric last year or was it 2 years ago? Not Affric, Alder. I thought it was 2 years ago. Anyway, when I was knitting my first sample of the Alder, I was also knitting a simultaneous set and sleeve design, which never made it very far. I found it very fiddly, and so that was the Ziggurat method, who is a designer who's, I don't remember her name, I'm really sorry, but her method is called Ava something. The Ziggurat method, which is a method of designing seamless top-down sweaters. Her method prioritises not having ends to weave in, but my take on that was that it was because of that it was quite complicated, and with the sort of Toasta series, one of the big things for me is versatility and having, I feel like if you have very clear building blocks then you can customise very readily, and so the Ziggurat method to me was a little bit more complex than I wanted it to be. And then earlier this year I started reading Knitting from the Top, which is a book by Elizabeth Zimmerman? No, Barbara G. Walker. Very cool book. And doesn't have patterns in it, but it has like overviews of constructions, and there's a simultaneous set and sleeve design in there, which again is like, do a little bit of the back, then do a little bit of the fronts, then do this. And I was like, this is so vague, but also like the parameters are way clearer in this. And so that was the basis that I used to design the Sollas. So I knit a blue pure silk t-shirt version, I knit a red Henley, and I knit a green cardigan, and they were all at the 17 stitch gauge, and I wore them all through the summer, and I've only got 10 stitches left, so I'll be showing this sample in a second. And so I decided to knit one of those. On Monday I went to knit night, and a new person came to knit night called Megan, who was wearing, I think, a Maggie cardigan by Petite Knit, which is a short sleeved cardigan, and I was like, oh, I want a short sleeved grey cardigan in my life. And I thought, well, lucky for me, I've got a pattern that is for a short sleeved cardigan. So I cast on. Oh no, don't lose my stitches. This is the problem. I should not put it on a shorter cable. Is this the short cable? Yeah, this is the long cable. But they're all going to fall off. Here we go. So I cast this on the day before yesterday, Wednesday. I knit up very quickly. I know that speed is not the answer, like we don't always want things to knit quickly, but sometimes you do just want a little bit of that. Sometimes it feels good, sometimes you just want the pattern and you want to be able to wear it, and that's kind of how I feel like this. And my silly goal is that I would like to wear this on Monday, but now I'm obsessed with my new, now the goalposts have changed, because now I want to do my yoke of my new Argyle sample, so maybe not. Here we go. So that is the sleeve seam, but as you can see, I'm working them all together. Oh, you can't really tell that, but you work it a bit like a raglan, so you increase for the sleeve side, and then eventually it's a bit like a compound raglan, so you increase on the sleeve and the body, which is quite fun because, again, like a raglan, you have all the top of you have the look of a set-in sleeve, but you don't have to knit any of the top part of the sleeve because it's already been knit for you. It's got a little round neck front. Very cute little fuzzy cardigan. So I'm really enjoying this, and it's going to be very straightforward knitting. I started a new book. I'm reading The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillen. That's not her surname. Can't remember. The same author of One Dark Window. New book. from her. I'm very confused. Lots of world building, no idea what's going on. Generally enjoying it. And I can knit and read at the same time at Stockinette, and so that's been what I've been doing. I've been knitting on this, I'm reading on that, and I'm about 30% through the book, and I'm probably about 30% through the sweater, so far I'm at a pretty accurate rate. My battery is going to die. And I'm back. So I've been reading that book, and so far enjoying it. I'm not really a reading slump, but like I definitely was in a reading slump, and I've kind of come back out of it with, I read a really good, very fun romance last week. I forgot what it was. I feel like that's how it works. I read like a intricate fantasy world building, lots going on, and then I have a little romance, very light-hearted romance book in the middle to like ease my brain, and then I go back into the fantasy, and that's kind of all my reading habits. So yes, I would like to get this finished by the end of the weekend, but like I might be being ridiculous. I do have to do other things this week, and I really do want to prioritise for my own peace of mind and like having this down and being sure about it. I want to get this yoke done. So whether I can do the entire body of this and that yoke this weekend, I'm not sure, but I will try. So this is exactly the same as the main colour of this sweater, but I think it will have like a different purpose in my wardrobe. And I'm excited to have a little short sleeve cardigan. I think it will look very cute. And with that, those are all my whips and all my finished objects. I have one piece of, I have one acquisition. Actually, that's not true. I have a few acquisitions to show. So I have honestly ordered so much yarn in the last 2 weeks, is my admission to you all. I think it happens when I'm like, I think my yarn ordering habits are reflective of my state of mind. So if I'm feeling a bit like antsy and jumpy and I'm not sold an idea, I buy a lot of yarn. And it's not crazy. Like my yarn gets churned through regularly. Like it's fine. But that's why there's been so much yarn purchases this week. I have 2 things I want to show you though. They're both from the same place. They're from Knit and Living, which is a company here in the UK. The first is I got some new stitch markers, and I have to show this one because it's the cutest one. It's a pine cone. Look at that little pine cone. So I got 2 of these. They're so cute. I don't want to lose them. I'm worried I'm going to lose them. I keep all my special markers in a tin, but I just took this off a project, so that was my cute little pine cone, and I ordered from them because they have got a new yarn in stock, which is the Santa's Garn Cashmere. So I ordered some of that as well to try. We're going to a wedding next weekend, and I thought this could be a fun thing to take in the car because it's a pretty long drive. And also like, I'm taking a small bag to the wedding, and I was like, if I knit something else on the car on the way down, maybe my Argyle probably, or my Insh, yeah, Stockinette, that would be fine. Knit them in the car, cast this on just before the wedding, and then like I've got a project because I just need this on my needles, and that will fit in my tiny little cute little clutch bag. And that's how you don't get invited to any more weddings. No, that's probably not true, but yeah, so order them. What else has arrived? Yeah, another colour of Pernilla came to try my Pernilla. Oh, and I ordered some West Yorkshire Spinners BFLTK, which is what I used for my Ariandel. Yeah, I need to stop filming soon because my brain function is just declining rapidly. And I had this realisation this week that what I really would like is a drop shouldered Dorney, which is a cable knit pattern. No idea what I'm casting that on. That'll be my next like fun cast on. My next like, I mean all my castings are fun, but sometimes I have like a treat yourself cast on, and my treat yourself cast on this week is my cardigan, my little grey cardigan. At some point when my needles are clear, I finished like 3 projects last week, like one on Friday, one on Tuesday, one on Saturday or something. They all finished within a week, and so I was like, oh, I just have a new cast on. So that was what my grey cardigan was, and at some point in the future when I clear off my required knitting, I will cast on a drop shoulder Dorney. More on that to come. And then life, yeah, life has been pretty chaotic. It's been lovely, like it was very nice having guests, but I think my problem is that from in August in Edinburgh there's the Fringe Festival, which is a huge international arts festival, which is so fun, and I'm so glad that we get to be part of it. We have people staying for like 2 of the 3 weekends. Like we had a lot of visitors throughout the Fringe, and I went to a lot of shows, and so ultimately from like the start of August and then the end of August my birthday, and then Sal's mum arrived to stay with us for 2 weeks, and then I think she left like last Monday. So at this point we're like 10 days past her leaving, and I feel like we're now kind of getting back to a routine. And I feel like I had such a good job in June and July, and like even May. Like I feel like I really got myself into a good pattern of work, and that all kind of exploded. And it's funny because like obviously the benefit, like the absolutely overwhelming benefit of being self-employed is that if people are visiting, you can go off and do fun things with them, and you're very free and you can reshuffle your own work. And I'm now at the other end of it, which is that I've got a lot to do and I feel a bit overwhelmed by the mountain of things that I've been putting off for the last 5 weeks. The bare minimum's happened. Like I'm doing what I need to do. My emails are replied to. My tax is paid. All those things have happened. It's just that I've not done any of my additional stuff. So I'm trying to catch up a little bit with that. And I've got so much knitting to do, which is not a bad position to be in either. But I'm aware that I've just got a lot of knitting I need to get done for samples and lots of things. So yes, I think that's it. I'll be back to barely normal scheduling from now on for the foreseeable anyway. We've got a wedding to go to next week, but then other than that I've got a free weekend this weekend, and then next the weekend after the wedding, and then like all the way until the end of November. So that's very exciting. And I'll be back with more updates, hopefully with a little bit more, with a resolution, shall we say, on my Argyle pattern. And it's very funny because I get so enthused and so fired up when I know a design's working, and I get so excited by seeing it develop, that when that doesn't happen, it's very clear to me that there's an issue. Like I can see, like, even if I can't say what it is, I can see like it's not quite right because it's not like tickled that part of my brain. And it's a blessing and a curse. Like it's lovely to be able to see that that's so readily and so early, but it's annoying that it's such a visceral impact. Anyway, I am off to tidy up the chaos that I've created by filming. I'm going to get changed to go for a nice lunch, and I'm going to keep knitting on this. Again, use Affric 10 for 10% off the pattern until the end of the weekend, and check your emails if you want any info on the test knits. Thanks for joining me. Bye.